Yes.
Yeah, it's has pictures.
Okay.
I pictured it out.
Yeah. Well, you
Yeah, I'm not here too.
disturb us too.
It's like one guy's on his own. Well,
No, that's good.
yeah.
What time does it start?
Surprised it's like a can.
We drove out by 4 last night. Yeah, but then it was like a 45 minutes more, so I left.
Seriously?
We ready?
Quite a few people either mine or our friends, so. Sure.
All right. Let's go ahead and stand and get started. I've asked Bill Finder if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Welcome to the Board of County Commissioners. Today is January 22nd. My name is Kevin Cook. I'm the County Commissioner serving as chair this year, also representing District 2. To my left is Commissioner Bob Archer representing District 3. Got it right this time.
Yes.
And to my right is Commissioner Shelley Bueller representing District 1. Good morning.
Good morning.
If we could start with the first item with proclamations.
Number 1, report on the land use and growth management plan.
Yeah.
Well, good morning. Bill Finder, Planning Director, City of Topeka. Thank you for giving me some time to bring this matter back to you and bring you up to date on where we are. Really, my objective today is to recap our outreach efforts to the stakeholders outside the city, as well as share the outcomes of that process and kind of where we go from here with our next steps. So, briefly, in review, the plan, Land Use and Growth Management Plan, is the city's official document of where and how the city grows. Core to that vision in this update are 3 really key principles. I'll try to keep hitting on, but keep in mind. Number 1, that our growth would be fiscally responsible. What does that mean? That's where there's a return on investment and where our 5 services for the city are in place. That's affordable growth. We can grow into those areas or within the areas where we already are. Sustainable, second one. It needs to be sustainable. It needs to be compact. We need to promote more density, more mixed use within areas that we already are, again. Planned, that's the last one. That's really to invest as leading development. We don't want to play catch up with our investments in infrastructure. We want to be able to make investment decisions with those services and infrastructure and have development follow. So that's, and then also plan for room to grow. There will be that we need to grow in a cost-effective manner, so planning for that in the future is really critical. So those 3 things are core to that vision. Aligning with the vision, you'll see, now you'll see, is a much more shrunken, reduced growth area footprint that the city has proposed, kind of in aligning with those principles. So we shrunk the overall growth area quite a bit, quite dramatically. And then within that growth area, we established 3 clear priority areas. Just to kind of give you some context here, the area outside the city, the 3-mile area outside the city where the city has jurisdiction for subdivisions, is not the urban growth area. The urban growth area is really much smaller. About a third of that 3-mile area would be our urban growth area. That's where we're most likely to urbanize in the next 25, 50 plus years. And within that, there are 3 priority areas. There's Tier 1, which is quite simply the city. The city limits would be the first priority for growth and investment and development. The second is just outside the city. This is a much smaller area. It's hard to see, the more the royal blue area. It's a Tier 2. These are areas outside the city that have our city services or could have our city services without a major investment. and would make us more compact. That only really amounts to about 5% of the area in the urban growth area, so it's a very small area. Then Tier 3 is the rest of it, that's the green. A lot of that it's not ready. There would need to be major significant investments by the city, and it wouldn't make us compact or cost-effective to grow into those areas at this time. There's also the employment tier area, which makes up a large part of that, and that's in the south and also up north. Those are for industrial type land uses. That's where our utilities already are. Okay, so public engagement. The last time I think we met, or I was here, we were kind of at the culmination of our public review process, or our public engagement process, which had 3 community open houses. We had met 4 planning commission meetings, one with the county commission, obviously one was here, and a series of media releases. And through all that, we did, with your input, realize that we really need to go out and have a more hands-on engagement with the folks and stakeholders outside of the city in our urban growth area. So we had a series of informational meetings. With the help of county planning, we were able to contact and identify about 450 properties were identified.
Bill,
Yeah,
Commissioner.
before I move on? Mm-hmm.
Would you go back to that?
Yeah.
What is the area around Lake Sherwood? What does that represent, Bill?
The hatched area.
Yes.
I think that's just signifying that that is the Sherwood Improvement District.
Okay.
So that is not, and
So that's not tier
that's
1,
not
2,
tier
or
1
3.
or 2 or 3. It's kind of it's surrounded by tier 3. So I guess in technically it would be part of tier 3. We just designated that out as something unique because it has its own special improvement district. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And also, just to clarify, when you spoke to us last, or I think Barry kind of helped talk last time, the Royal Blue or Tier 2, those were identified areas for possible annexation in the future.
Yes, you could look, exactly. Look at it that way. If it's tier 2, that's our flag to say, okay, we need to look closer at those areas because they would make us more compact, and we have our services already there. So let's do a more. So this is a preliminary priority identification. The next step would be look at individual areas to say, okay, does this can the department serve this in a cost-effective way? Is there consent to be annexed? Are they surrounded by the city? So it could be a unilateral type of annexation. So that's kind of the next step after this identifies those areas.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, as I was saying, there was about 450 properties identified. Of that, I think about 300 plus notices went out. The interesting thing, we counted between all of our personal contacts about 140 personal contacts, whether they were at the meeting, phone calls, emails, walk-ins, and that's almost half. It was really tremendous participation that we usually get. So we were able to reach a lot of people. There was 3 meetings. We had an informational meeting with the township representatives back in November, and then we had 2 meetings in December with the property owners. And as I said, the process itself really tried to, or what we learned is not only educate stakeholders, but it helped to dispel a lot of misinformation that we found that was out there. And so I'll just walk you through some of that, sort of the comments we heard and some of the information that we shared. One of the first things we heard was many were worried that they'd be brought into the city as a result of this plan. And of course, as in my comments earlier, that's not true. The city is the first priority area for growth. The plan itself doesn't do any annexation. It does identify those tier 2 areas as potential future parts of the city. But for the most part, yeah, it was not a far-reaching effort to grab land. So Second, some thought that the plan would actually extend city building permits outside the city. That is not true. And I forgot that even happened at one point back in our history, but no, that's not true. That doesn't do this and doesn't plan to. Third, many were not aware that the city now requires annexation for new service to water and sewer. So that was enlightening, I think, for many people to know that hadn't been through that process. That's been in place for about 7+ years now. Many were not aware that the changes that would be proposed to the subdivision standards just affect new lots. So we had many folks that we talked to that did not have any interest in subdividing or wanted to keep the character of the area more rural, preserve that character. So that was, it does not affect existing lots. Existing lots are grandfathered under any changes of any rules. Many were not aware that the 20-acre standard, so as we talk about the new subdivision standards, there is already a 20-acre standard for new lots in our comprehensive plan. So when somebody does have to plat, we do apply that. And as well as the annexation provision. So those are fairly inflexible type things. So we explained the reasoning behind the 20-acre minimum. It's applied now. But we agreed, I think most agreed, that it's not desirable to have a one-size-fits-all kind of standard and policy. So what was built into the plan is more flexibility, so that it meets those earlier goals that we have, which is to plan for future growth. That's really what this is, in a cost-effective way, and saves taxpayers money now, saves taxpayers money in the future. So what's built into the plan we talked about was we would only implement those new standards for subdivisions where it's most likely urbanization would occur, and that was back in the urban growth area, in the tier 2, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and also where city utilities are. We do have water and sewer beyond the urban growth area, but those would be the areas most likely to be urbanized in the future. Again, the UGA is about 1/3 of overall of the 3-mile area. And as I explained, the need to reserve those areas for future urbanization so that we don't get into situations where we have to grow in a odd manner, that we can grow in a compact concentric manner, as opposed to having fingers and peninsulas and islands and things of that nature that make it much harder to serve from a cost effective standpoint. So it's really planning, and we're trying. So the reasons behind that we tried to explain, but we also explained that we see exceptions to those standards, and that's what's built into the plan, and that's kind of what we finessed a little bit more as a result of this process. Is you can go below 20 acres provided that areas are set up for and set aside for future urban growth. If you cluster your new lots, we do recognize there's areas that the city will not grow into because it's already subdivided quite a bit. So the chance to do infill, what I would call more infill lot splits and things of that nature, should be accepted out. So I think that was explained. I think so. There was some reassurance there that we would the new standards is not a one-size-fits-all. It's actually quite a bit of flexibility in it. So that, I mean, and at the end of the 2 sessions with the property owners, and this happened when we would talk to folks on the phone, the big lesson is that really every property is different. After the meetings, we had our GIS, 2 GIS workstations set up. People could come up. We would actually bring up their property on the screen, talk specifics about, okay, how would these new standards affect what you might want to do, and I'm not sure we gave the exact same answer to everyone, because a lot of the properties are not a perfect geometric square and frontage. Some were in the urban growth area, some were out, And some, we're not proposing to have the 20-acre minimum outside of the urban growth area. So people, I think people were appreciative of that and reasonable about having that understanding. So, and that's really what the summary, my summary would be, is that it did help give a better understanding of how this may or may not impact them. It helped us, from a staff standpoint, be more sensitive, I think, to some of the variations that could happen. And so, hence, more flexibility in those standards, the better. And I think that's what that's what my goal is to try to achieve. Moving forward, we're planning to take the plan to our governing body soon, very soon. We continue to work with our planning commission on the subdivision and actually utility regulations as well to align those with the plan. And we've shared that with county planning as well, and have met. So so we're continuing to go down that road, but I wanted to come back and at least update you and share what some of those outcomes were of the process, and I thank you for giving me that time and an opportunity to do that, because I think it's made a better product because of it.
In speaking with constituents, whether they were for the long-range plan or against the long-range plan, a reoccurring question emerged, which is, who represents me? I don't fall within the city, so I don't have a city council representative. This isn't the county, so I don't have a county representative. Who represents me when this comes before the City of Topeka governing body? Your thoughts, or maybe even county councilor if he has any thoughts. So I think that that's a question as to who has my interests at heart and who is my representative of this board. Any thoughts on that?
That is that's a good question. You know, I think it's one of those things that if I was in that position, I certainly would understand, which is why having more understanding out there during this process was good. At the end of the day, if you have you want to represent your interests in a manner that's maybe not represented here, you know, I'm one voice, but that's not. I don't think that's necessarily my job to accurately portray what they're feeling.
I mean, it's a fair statement, is it not, that there is no representative of these individuals that fall within that municipal services boundary when it comes to the City of Topeka planning, like the long-range land use growth management plan.
Yeah, it would be much like the way it's set up now to have that subdivision authority, or we have our utilities out there. There's still a whose interest is that the most.
Right.
I can see it. I can see that both ways.
And in our position as a county commission, we're advisory only in this capacity, correct?
Correct. This is not something that would come before you.
Commissioner?
Yeah, I was just going to clarify, Mr. Chair, that, yeah, I hear the same thing quite frequently, and they do have a representative in the county commission. The problem is that we have no authority or control over what goes on in Topeka planning in the 3-mile zone. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Commissioner Mueller?
Just that I appreciate you pausing and taking some time to meet with the township officials and then those impacted, because for those property owners, it really helps them plan accordingly for their management of their land. And I think we bring a voice to that. Hopefully we did. Going forward, I'm not sure if they have disputes, how that's going to be handled, but I do appreciate the planning department. Barry, I cannot see you, you're behind the camera guy, but I do appreciate all the extra work, notification, and I think that was very important. And hopefully the city staff learned a little bit of something too about the complexities of what we face.
What you don't, if I may,
Sure.
if what you don't see in here is Dan and others and me and other staff talking and working with property owners on before this
Probably
ever
do.
came out. we work on and you may have got copied on some things where people want to subdivide or do a lot split, and they meet with us, and they run into these sort of problems where our standards are not flexible enough. And we, over the last several years, have tried to create, why are we doing this? Why do we have these standards? And then work back into something we can say, look, if you do it this way, then you meet all the intent of a compact growth pattern. We can grow into that. This is truly a transition area for one day to be urban. You don't have to be annexed as a result of getting our service, as long as you can provide for that. So I think the way the rules were set up and standards were set up prior to this, they were really meant to be a pretty hard line. That's the way I view it, and I think we're trying to recognize, okay, there was an intent there, but let's work back into and be more reasonable and realistic about where are we going to grow, what is realistic, and we'll prioritize from there. So I thank you for giving us the opportunity. It was a learning experience, absolutely, absolutely, and property owners, stakeholders now have a face, have a name. We've met with a lot of them, and we have a relationship here, and they know we're working on a solution that hopefully is a balancing of interests here for both the city goals and their goals.
I know you said that you were planning on bringing this to the City of Topeka governing body. Do you have a rough idea or timeline in which you think that might be presented to them?
I think right now, probably end of February, early March. So about another month or so is my guess.
Very good. And if constituents have questions between now and then, they can still contact you regarding their concerns?
Oh, absolutely. Specific property questions we encourage. One answer doesn't fit all people's properties, so we do encourage that. Our planning commission is meeting also next month, February 16th, in city council chambers to take up the subdivision regulations as well. So that could be a good opportunity as well, I think, to come before a body.
And again, that time, February the 16th?
Sorry, 6 o'clock, city council chambers. Yes.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Anything further?
Nope, thank you.
County Councilor?
I would like to say one thing. We do have a type of representation, and that's your state senator and your state representative. The city of Topeka is simply following the statutory scheme laid out by the Kansas legislature. And every year, there are bills filed for annexation, and there's bills filed for land growth plans that affect how these things operate. A lot of them don't go anywhere. Some of them do. Annexation law has changed in the last 5 years, and there was another bill filed either this week or last week that would give counties more power in how cities annex property. So there are people that you can talk to and get the system changed if you don't like it, or if you do like it, keep it the same. So I would encourage people who have an interest in the property, in this system, if they want to seek change, or even if they like it, they can talk to a state rep or their state rep or their state senator.
All right, thank you. Next item.
Unfinished business, number 1, consider approval of request to reallocate, reclassify the following positions and request to fill any positions that arise from the allocations reclassifications. A, HA 1019, reclassify an emergency preparedness community outreach EPCO team leader position, range 28, step 1, to HA 1019A, EPCO specialist position, range 26, step 1, at a salary of $51,311, including benefits. B, HA 1112, reallocate an EPCO specialist position from range 22, step 3, to range 26, step 3, at a salary of $53,578, including benefits.
Morning, Commissioners. Allison Alejos, Health Agency. This item was before you a few weeks ago and was deferred so that we could spend some time answering questions for Commissioner Archer. I'm happy to go back over the request if you'd like me to do that.
Commissioners, is there any discussion on the item? Or is there any motions on the item?
I'll move to reclassify.
There's a motion by Commissioner Bueller to reclassify, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0.
Thank
Very
you.
much. Next item.
Consent agenda.
Are there any questions or comments regarding the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Archer to accept the consent agenda as presented, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Next item.
New business, A, County Clerk. Number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Vouchers are totaling $2,792,871.16. And our three biggest expenditures, infrastructure, the project on 45th Street, payroll, and insurance. With that, I move approval.
Motion to approve the
Second.
vouchers by
Second.
Commissioner Bueller, seconded by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Next item.
Number 2, consider correction orders.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Bueller for the correction orders, seconded by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Next item.
Number 3, consider approval of resolution number 2015-4, authorizing the destruction of blank voucher and payroll checks from U.S. Bank.
This is a fairly routine end-of-the-year resolution. I'll move for the approval of the destruction of the blank voucher and payroll checks.
Second.
Second, motion made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Next item.
Item B, corrections. Number 1, consider approval of request to accept bids for inmate clothing and supplies at various prices.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Department of Corrections. Today I'm here before you to request approval to accept the submitted bids for various vendors to buy supplies and various inmate clothing for and supplies needed through the calendar year 2015. Last year in November 2014, we came before the board to ask permission to seek to go out for bids to see what the best prices are for our supplies needed. Major E. Kendall diligently met with, and I did as well, met with Betty Griner. We met to discuss the process to ensure we were staying in compliance with the policy procedure for purchasing. We submitted our bids. Then again, we followed up with Betty to go over the bids to get the most responsible bids. We believe the bids that there is a sheet. The vendors that are highlighted are the ones for those various supplies we need, and we believe, and also Betty, we believe that we got the best price, the best quality of price, and the best responsible price for our agency. We do have these funds budgeted in 2015, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Brian, is this something that we're going to be doing on a yearly basis?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We in the past, we've done this already. In the past, we would go out and solicit and get bids. I think in speaking with Betty, because, you know, the volume, trying to get as much as we can to get the best business or the best prices. We kind of already were doing this already, but I think it would kind of more formalize this, making sure that we were staying compliant with the policy. And so, yes, we will be doing this each year. Is my understanding correct? Yes. So we'll be doing this each year. Yes.
Any other questions?
No, I have none. Move approval.
There's a motion to approve the request to accept bids for inmate clothing and supplies by Commissioner Bueller,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item, sorry.
That's okay. Item C, Public Works Solid Waste. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of Contract C-27, 2015 with Coder Engineering, Inc. for professional design services for the Southwest 85th Street Bridge over a tributary to the Wakarusa River project in an amount of $60,600.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Block of Public Works and Solid Waste. This is a Public Works item. As you may recall, a few meetings ago, the Commission approved the award of design services for 3 different bridge replacement projects. And this first one of them was Dakota Engineering to work on the Southwest 85th Street over the tributary to Wakarusa River, which is just east of Auburn Road, on the northeast edge of the town of Auburn. But this is their contract for design and construction engineering services to move forward with that project. This project is planned for construction in 2016, and the funding for this project is coming from the current half-cent sales tax. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Thank you for letting us know just kind of a time frame. I mean, we never think about how long it takes to replace a bridge. We see it when it's in construction, but not all the steps leading up to it. Is there any other discussion?
Move approval.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Bueller, second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Next item.
Number 2, consider authorization and execution of contract C-28, 2015 with CFS Engineering for professional design services for the Southeast Tecumseh Road Bridge over Stinson Creek project in an amount of $70,000.
Commissioners, this is a similar item to the one that was just approved. This is another project, again, as mentioned, on Southeast Tecumseh Road, which is just north of Southeast 29th Street. This project was awarded to CFS Engineering, and this is their contract for those services for that project. And again, this one is also planned for 2016 construction and will be funded through the current half-cent sales tax. Any questions regarding this one? I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Any questions?
Motion to approve the contract.
Motion to approve by
Second.
Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Next item.
Number 3, consider authorization and execution of contract C-29, 2015, amendment to contract C-515, 2013 with Wabaunsee for the Southwest Carlson Road Bridge over Mission Creek project, replacing the original project budget with the revised project budget.
Commissioners, as you may recall, this is a project in which we're replacing a bridge on Southwest Carlson Road to the south and west of the town of Dover. We had received a grant from KDOT to perform this project. So KDOT is actually leading this project, and we are providing our share, roughly 20-25% of the cost. When KDOT took bids, the bids came in higher than what the estimate was, so we had to recalculate all the cost-sharing agreements. And a few meetings back, the commission approved our increase in our budget for that project. But since this project is on the county line with Wabaunsee County, they are also paying for a portion of the project. And this amendment to their contract just increases the amount that they have to pay extra for that increase in the construction cost. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them. The funding for this, again, our portion is coming from the current half-cent sales tax. Wabaunsee County's paying for their portion. And then, like I said, we have federal highway funds for the majority of it.
Any questions regarding this?
Move approval.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Bueller,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Next item.
Number 4, consider approval of request to award bid for the Southwest 55th Street, Southwest Westport Drive, Timber Ridge Subdivision Street Improvement Project to Williamson Excavating and Concrete at a cost of $424,865.35, and authorization and execution of contract C-30, 2015 for same.
Commissioners, this item is a developer project in which the developer, in this case, Doltmeyer Homes, has used a provision with the county to have the county finance improvements for their improved subdivision, in which then when that happens, the county and Public Works in particular gets involved in the administration of helping them through the process, helping them through the bids. But the owner, in this case, Doltmeyer, selects their own engineer. They do all the design, but we just administer it through the process. And the funding for this, the county takes out bonds on their behalf, and then the developer then issues special assessments to the properties that pays those bonds back to the county. So we, bids were taken on this, and there were 4 bids that were received. Williamson Excavating and Concrete out of Osage, Kansas, who we know Doltmeyer has worked with in the past, and I believe is satisfied with them, was the low bidder at $424,865.35. It was less than the engineer's estimate of $510,000. So we would recommend awarding the contract to Williamson Excavating. And again, the funding for this would be completely from the improvement district.
And Tom, just to clarify, while we're administering the project, we're overseeing the project, no general tax funds from property taxes are paid out of for this project.
Correct. It would be basically paid back from the people that buy the lots through special assessments.
Is there any other discussion on the item?
Motion to approve the contract.
Motion made by Commissioner
Second.
Archer, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Next item.
Number 5, consider approval of the project budget of $122,800 for the design build of elevated storage units for the Shawnee County Solid Waste Department, and approval of request to waive normal bidding procedures and issue a request for qualifications to general contractors interested in providing design build services necessary to construct these elevated storage units.
Commissioners, this is a solid waste item, and since we implemented the curbside recycling, we introduced quite a few more vehicles to our fleet, which need to be serviced at our north annex, which causes a need for us to have additional room to operate. In addition to that, with the implementation of the curbside recycling up at our household hazardous waste facility, in the last 2 years, we have nearly doubled the amount of material that's being brought up there to that facility. So we are pretty cramped for space, so I asked my Deputy Director, Tom Flanagan, to do a little investigation on different ways that might be able to solve the issue, whether it would be expand the buildings, or secondly, do elevated storage or like a mezzanine. It is our opinion that using the elevated storage areas would be much less expensive and efficient for us. So that is what the request is. We would like to receive authorization to go out for requests for design build services similar to what we're doing with the women's locker room at the solid waste department. For the design build of these 2 elevated storage areas, as we are finding out, the cost of steel is not cheap at all by any means. So we're estimating that the cost for these 2 to be constructed is $122,800, of which would be paid for completely through the solid waste fund, which again is not tax funds, it's enterprise funds, so it would be fees from our customers. So if there's any questions regarding this, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Tom, there's sufficient reserves to allow for this project in the solid waste fund,
Yes, there is.
and so this shouldn't result in any rate increases or changes from the result of this project.
No, not at all.
Any other discussions?
I'll move to approve the project budget, waive normal bidding procedures, and issue a request for qualifications.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Commissioner Bueller to approve the request to waive normal bidding procedure and issue request for qualification, seconded by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next item.
Item D, Health Agency. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-31-2015 with John Franco, Pizzino, MD, MPH, to continue to serve as the Shawnee County Health Officer for the period of January 1, 2015 to December 31st, 2015, at a cost of $50,400 annually, plus costs of licensing, malpractice insurance, and continuing education as is applicable and approved by the local health department.
Morning, Commissioners. Allison Alejos. It is a time for us to look at our health officer's contract and get it renewed. He has actually been with the health agency since 2006. He has been very effective in that role, very engaged in the work that we do at the local health department. He is, as is stated, he has a monthly stipend, or he receives $4,200 a month in payment, along with the cost of his licensing and malpractice insurance. Those are things that we have provided since the beginning of this contract. He does, in fact, he actually has to have a different license than he normally would because of his role. In his full-time job, he does not function as a practicing physician where he's doing hands-on providing care with direct individual patients. So he has had an exempt license. So he now, as a result of being the health officer, has to have an active license, which is an additional expense for him to fulfill this role, along with the insurance that goes with it, the liability insurance. So that is why we pay those. And I'd be happy to try to answer any other questions.
Any other questions?
I
Archer?
I just wanted to say that I had reviewed Dr. Pizzino's credentials and his performance, and I'll make a motion to approve the contract as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Archer to approve, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you very much. Next item.
Number 2, consider authorization and execution of Contract C-32, 2015 with Dr. Mahasan De Silva to provide psychiatric services to patients of the Community Health Center at a rate of $150 per hour to be paid by patient revenues as well as state community-based primary care grant.
Allison Alejos again. This is a community health center item, but Alice is tied up with working with the consultants today, so she's asked that I try to present these and answer any questions you may have. As you can see, Dr. De Silva is actually the psychiatrist that they use within the community health center for those patients. He does receive $150 per hour. Those fees are covered primarily through revenues, but also some through the state community-based primary care grant.
Is there any questions or discussions? I'll move approval of the contract with Dr. Mahasan De Silva.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Next item.
Number 3, consider authorization and execution of Contract C-33, 2015 with Dr. David Roadheffer, Ph.D., psychologist, to assist staff in providing mental health services to community health center clients at a cost of $100 per hour to be paid by patient revenues, Medicaid, third-party insurance, as well as a state community-based primary care grant.
Again, much like Dr. De Silva, Dr. Rodehefer provides clinical psychologist services so that they can meet those needs of their clients that have some mental health issues that need some additional resources. He is paid $100 per hour as stated, and also this is covered in part by revenues as well as a state community-based primary care grant.
Any questions or comments?
Move approval of the contract.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Bueller to approve the contract, seconded by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioners.
Next item.
Administrative communications.
There are no administrative communications today.
Good morning, Commissioners. Cindy Evans with Shawnee County K-State Research and Extension. I'm just here today to give you a brief update on the senior health insurance counseling effort through the fall. You probably are aware from the news that each fall seniors have the opportunity to take a look at their Medicare prescription drug plans. And I'm a certified counselor. This year, I counseled 324 seniors. Of those, about 50%, 165, changed plans, saving collectively over $134,000. So I think the important part, besides just the financial savings, is the role as a trusted professional, because I do not represent any plans. And I hope that some of those who came to visit me communicated with you that this program is valuable to them. When I sit with people, year after year, I was trying to think of how to explain this, and I really think it's a trusted relationship. I have people call every week, and it's things that maybe I have explained before, but for whatever reason, they, when they're hit with a bill, like the call yesterday was somebody who said, I went to a doctor, he prescribed a medication, I went to pick it up, and it was going to be $248, and I can't afford that. Why did this plan charge this? And I had to let them know, your plan has a deductible to it. They don't all, but some do. It's January. You obviously haven't met your deductible yet. And so there's an opportunity there that, is this going to be an ongoing drug? Will you meet the deductible and then the price will go down in future months? Could you call your physician and say, I can't afford this. Is there a lesser expensive option available? And I think that they feel like they can, call me and get that kind of information. Some of the things that besides money, it's not really all about the money, because as people come to me, we're looking at, cost, convenience, and for many of them, they'll say, the most important thing to me is I want to keep my pharmacist. So we might take a look at comparing those only by the pharmacy they want to stay at. And others come in and say, I can't get out of the car, so I need a drive-up window. So we're just going to compare the pharmacies, and find the one that's cheapest that has that kind of ability for them. So I think that's important, to listen and to be there for them year after year as they're trying to find the drug plan that's going to meet their needs, and to help them work through problems that will arise. This year, 30 of those 167 that changed plans saved over $1,000. We find every year that some of the plans will drop some of the very expensive medications that have been covered for this person before. Inhalers, insulins, things like that. One of the things that was unique this year was Zolpidem. Now, it is not expensive, but you'd be amazed probably of how many seniors take a sleep medication. It was a big deal. Out of 28 plans, only 6 continued with a quantity limit that somebody could take those every day. All the rest of those, the other 22, allowed 90 in a year. That is not enough for most of the people who would like to sleep on those other days. So one of the things as a counselor, is being trained to say, here's your options, and to take a look at, on the sheets that print out, it's a contractual price between the company and these pharmacies. So it might say, well, hey, if a contractual price is just $5 for a month of Zolpidem, and people think, well, hey, after the 90 days, I'll just buy it for $5. But that isn't the case. After the contractual part and you're buying off plan, it might be $35 to $40 a month. Again, it's just important that people have the information, and that's my role as an educator in senior health insurance counseling. The information with more detail will be coming to you in the Making a Difference report that Extension provides to you each month. But I just wanted to give you an update that that's the most I've ever counseled. We try to streamline. I try to get some volunteers to help me with the parts that they can with the comparisons, but not the counseling. I'm the only one certified for counseling. Can I answer any questions?
Yeah, I'm curious, do you have a spreadsheet where you plug in the medications that they're taking and the plans, the deductibles and the co-insurance and all those factors that go into making a good recommendation?
It's at Medicare.gov. We are using the government's website, and I have a double screen on my desk so that I hope that I'm educating people who are computer savvy to watch how I go through the many steps to get to that. It creates a saved identification number so that people can go back into this account. It doesn't have any personal information in it other than, zip code. You could go in there and willy-nilly pull up a zip code and a random number and see somebody's drugs, but you wouldn't know whose they were. But in that, I think one of the things that's really a challenge in the city versus my extension colleagues who do this in smaller counties, we talk about how long it takes to do this. We have so many pharmacies, and about 3 years ago, they started a preferred pharmacy. So the contracts make a big difference. You'll have some plans that will only be a preferred pharmacy with Walmart or Sam's, some that are only a preferred pharmacy with CVS. They may come up and look like they're going to be the cheapest, but then you have to say, well, if you live in Meriden, are you willing to drive to 29th and Wanamaker to buy your drugs at CVS? And there's a lot of factors there. But to answer that question, certainly I put the information in. It puts the drug plans in order from the cheapest to the most expensive. But I would tell you that is not enough because you can only put in 2 pharmacies at a time. And so we will take pharmacies in and out. And then there's other things like step therapies on drugs, quantity limits, and prior authorizations that we need to look at more deeply to see if maybe the cheapest plan isn't the best one because of a step therapy or a prior authorization. Maybe you want to go down. Or somebody who says, I need more flexibility about where to go to get my drugs. Then we look at the plans that do not have preferred pharmacy networks, SilverScript or Cigna. Some of those plans don't have the requirements, and you can get the same pricing at any pharmacy. So again, I try to listen to what they tell me they need and try to go from there. And I think, I always remind people I have no medical background. I'm not there to dispute anything their physician has to say, but I will find people every year who are on a list of name brand drugs. And I will have to ask, so are you on these name brand drugs because you can't tolerate something that's a generic? Because sometimes there's fillers or things that cause trouble. And there's always people like, well, it's just what I've always been on. And, they're going to pay $2,500 for the year, maybe for a plan that when they go back and visit with their physician, they'll say, oh, well, I didn't know your plan didn't, and I'm not saying the physicians ought to know. They don't know how plans pay. They're busy doing other things. But these people can still have time to go back and find out, could I be taking a generic? Should I be trying a generic? Because the plans have extensive formularies of the drugs they cover. And that's the idea of keeping the drug costs down. See if you can take a generic and take this book with you and say, look up the drug class and find, is there a lesser expensive drug that could do the same thing for me than the name brand drug I'm currently taking?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
It's a good thing
Thank
you're
you,
there because you understand it really well.
It's a work
It's a
in
good thing,
progress.
it's a good thing you're there.
moving thing for a long time.
Barry?
Barry Beagle, Shawnee County Planning Department. I rise to address 2 issues. One, on the first topic that we dealt with today on the City of Topeka's Land Use Growth Management Plan and the question of representation. The statute that gives the City of Topeka the authority to extend their subdivision regulations into the 3-mile area also provides another alternative for the administration of subdivision regulations. It would require their participation in order to do it, but that is where the city and the county both desire to administer regulations, you can form a joint planning committee that would have exclusive authority within the 3-mile radius. Since the City of Topeka still, or at the moment, has subdivision planning authority they would have to relinquish in order to allow the county to be a participant with them in that process. But on the question of representation, I just wanted to reference that is an alternative, whether to be explored or not. Second, in 2010, the Planning Department took the initiative on behalf of Shawnee County to apply for admission into the community grading system through FEMA. Since Shawnee County is a participating community in the National Flood Insurance Program, we administer floodplain regulations. And as a result of administering regulations, then federal flood insurance is made available to properties that are impacted based upon their location within flood-prone areas. The CRS program is a voluntary incentive program, and that is that if we take extra steps that go beyond the simple administration of our regulations, if we become more educational, we help people understand the impacts of being in the floodplain, we do annual notifications to lenders, builders, etc., then we get credit points for that extra activity. Since 2010, we have been accepted into the community grading system. We are a Class 9 community, which means that for those who hold a flood insurance policy, they receive a 5% premium reduction as a result of our voluntary efforts to do these extra activities. We go through an annual renewal process to certify that, yes, we are still doing the same things for which we received credit points back originally in 2010. Every 5 years, we have to go through a complete recertification process. So 2015 is our 5th year of being in the CRS program. We will be hosting FEMA representatives, DWR, in June of this year to go over, again, reapplying and recertifying our efforts within this area. I wanted to bring this to your attention because this is one of those behind-the-scene things that happens that probably not very many people know about, but those who are impacted by being in the floodplain and have to have a flood insurance policy, that at least they're getting some kind of break on their flood insurance premium as a result of us taking these extra steps. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that to your attention that
No question.
Commissioner
we're
Bueller.
doing that work.
Barry, but the Class 9 is only in the unincorporated areas of Shawnee County,
Correct.
correct?
Correct.
So those living within city of Rossville that are in a floodplain or the city of Topeka that are in a floodplain, they too have to go through this whole process, correct?
That is correct. And there are ways that you can go up to a Class 1 community, which is, I guess if we were in New York City, we could maybe achieve, some of those things with manpower and resources and so forth. We cannot get past a Class 7 because we do not administer a building code. If we administer a building code whereby we have structural guidelines for building construction, then we could offer additional discounts. For every step that you take up the class, from a 9 to an 8 to a 7, et cetera, there's an additional 5% premium reduction. And so that's another incentive for us to potentially at some point maybe consider a building code in the unincorporated area, because it also enhances our ability to offer premium reductions for those who hold flood insurance.
Mhm. When I say they, I mean the governments of those
The governments
cities.
of those respective communities would have
Does FEMA
to.
contact them to ask if they want to participate in this as well?
Well,
Do you know?
it's by jurisdiction, so they independently
So
would have to do it. And
They do reach out to them,
I haven't. I mean, I've
No, you
just
haven't,
done it
but-
on behalf of.
but FEMA does.
Well, it's known, I guess, so it's at the individual initiative of the community if they want to take advantage of that. I will say it's not an easy task.
No.
Our application was about this thick by the time we got done,
Yeah.
just to apply to get into the program. So, anyway,
Commissioner Archer, any?
Thank you.
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Knight, Parks and Recreation. Quickly, I just wanted to report to you, this past Tuesday evening, we had the Life After Lights ceremony, which is TARC's kind of thank you for the Winter Wonderland that went on. Shawnee County does play a big role in that between Parks and Recreation and the Sheriff's Office. The Sheriff's Office was recognized again for having the biggest night fundraiser for that association. I do think that they kind of push the limit of voluntary contributions a little bit, but however they are able to collect the money, it goes to a good cause. Commissioner Cook was there, as well as several members from Parks and Recreation. TARC did have their biggest year that they've ever had, and which was significant in that they also had some of the fewest nights because of where Thanksgiving falls. So that event is doing really well. So.
And I think that TARC is planning on making a presentation to the county at a later time to tell just exactly how much they were able to raise during this Winter Wonderland over the last season. It was very, very exciting to do
Good,
that.
because I hated to miss the event. I could not attend, but that's good to hear
Yes.
that they're going to come.
Is there any other presentations for administrative communications? Commissioner Archer?
No, good.
Commissioner Bueller? The only thing that I have is that there is the annual chamber luncheon today at 11:30 at the Ramada. I understand that all three commissioners will be in attendance, and just for our press and public notification that we'll all be present at the same place at the same time. I don't know that I have anything else for administrative communications. Next item.
Executive session?
There is a need for executive session not to exceed 15 minutes for items regarding consultation with an attorney for the body or agency which will be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship, and for preliminary discussions relating to the acquisition of real property, which would include the county councilor, Rich Eckert, and Allison Alejos. And that is a motion for 15 minutes.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0.
Chris, I was wondering where they were going to do that, because they were there at the church. So.
And I gave you those to give to Cindy. Those papers.
Yes. Okay, over here. Yes, thank
And
you.
those are from Bob Perry.
Okay. Yeah, if you have a minute, I need to meet with Tom Block, but just, I need to ask you a question.
I'll take that addendum, Commissioner Bueller.
Chris is being so quiet over there, I didn't even see her.
She is.
She's very quiet.
Does she usually sing for you or something? Commissioner, it's that you're at that end.
I know, it is, it seems kind of
Hard
weird.
to pass notes.
Yeah, behind the chairs. What'd you have?
The absolute worst restaurant in terms of KD cheese.
Yeah.
Favorite chain.
Oh,
And I will
what
not
is
be deterred. Up north, they say that other speaks.
Mm.
It's delicious.
Is it?
That's when you got everything.
Okay, Commissioner, your time is.
Time?
We are back in session. No action is taken. We are adjourned. Thank you.